Hi, hello, Sat Shri Akal. You all are watching me at Punjab Kesari Navodaya Times. I'm Namita Suchdev with you. And you know what? The two persons who are with us right now, they have their own style of articulating their stories with human angle and heart. Yes, I'm talking about the Taj maker and a person who is associated into it so beautifully. Yes, I'm talking about Mr. Ron Scalpelo and Mr. Anand Nilakanthan, who's with us right now. Ron, Anand, welcome to Punjab Kesari Now the Times. How have you been?
Thank you so much.
So one question that I would love to ask from you is, what fascinates you, both of you, if I may ask, about the history of our country? Starting with you, Ron.
Well, I've been to India a number of times, and the architecture, the scale, it's such a rich history. And I've been brought up on as a child big films like Spartacus, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, Kurosawa's Ran. So when I had a chance and opportunity to make a story as epic as the one that was sent to me on the script, I just seized it. And we wanted to tell a big epic cinematic story full of love, full of jealousy, full of rivalries, and tell it in a contemporary way for modern audiences. How about you now?
First thing, it is my country. So naturally, it will be fascinating for me. Second thing, we have such a long history. We are perhaps among the classical civilization, we are the last one perhaps left with the continuing civilizational journey. And so many, I think we have been interacting with so many other cultures, both violently and non-violently, over so many centuries or over so many thousand years, through trade, through colonization, through invasions. These are all good, fertile grounds for a storyteller. So many things are hidden, so many things are there. And usually, when you tell stories when you tell it as history, there are limitations. When you tell it as stories, it gives us a lot of scope to use a lot of imagination of how people would have lived, how they would have talked. And we understand that the more we read, the more we go through it, we understand that they were no different from us. The settings might be different, but the emotions, the what they when the means of achieving something might be different, but what they wanted to achieve, there is no difference at all. It is today's story, our story. Nothing changes in human history. That is one thing which is very universal about all stories. And the more universal you can make a story, the better it will be. That's what we are trying to do with this, because the story of the Mughal succession throne is the story of any empire across the world, across any time. It's no different. So that is what it makes so fascinating. And India, as Ron correctly put, it's a continent in itself. So we have, this is like, if you do Indian history, it's like reading world history as such. What better way to tell it?
Yes, absolutely. Beautifully, you have put it into words. Ron, if I ask you, like, how did you conceive an idea like Taj, Divided by Blood, or a subject that has Mughal dynasty, the Mughal Empire, and so beautifully all the casts we put into it. I mean, know each and everything from like conceiving the idea, casting the actors. And how did you discuss this idea with Anand?
Yeah, well, it's such a huge undertaking, but we attracted some of the best actors in India, from Nazaruddin Shah to Rahul Bose, Dandia, Aditi Rao. It was so many great actors coming on board, because I think they saw that I was trying to approach it with a kind of an outsider's point of view in some ways, and maybe tell the story in a slightly, I wouldn't say original, but with a different perspective. And I have a huge respect for, obviously, all the documentaries and films that have been made on the Mughal Empire. And I looked at some of them and researched some materials. But, it was really, we live in a time where getting people's attentions is so hard. And to connect with a contemporary broad audience, I just wanted to make sure that all the big emotions were there, like love, jealousy, pride, anger, fear, as, all the epic emotions that define us within a huge cinematic, epic, historical film. I mean, I keep referring to each episode as a film, because each episode is so big with the palaces and the huge battle sequences and the great costumes and production design. And I think people are already starting to say that the scale and ambition of the show is quite high. And Z5 and Consolo, I think they wanted something different from my perspective, really, to bring into this world. And I just approached the story with a sense of modernity, and I think the scripts were very much making this a family story within a sort of a huge empire story. So on one level, we had to work with something that was epic and huge battles, but also really look at the inner emotions of all of our characters as individual characters and really understand that none of our emotions are fixed. We travel through so many emotions from day to day, week to week, year to year, and we're all growing through time. And I think hopefully people are relating to that, that even with Akbar, we have to deal with the moral complexity.
I want to add here, Anand, from you.
Yeah.
How challenging was that for you to put all the actors, all the cast into, taking them into that era of the Mughal dynasty? That I believe in itself is a really tedious task, no? When you're making a periodic drama.
This is to Ron, right? Because he had directed the show.
Luckily, I have another one.
Because I was not interacting with the actors as such, because my thing was setting it up, the entire thing setting it up from the beginning when the story idea was conceived and this was brought up. Ron's role came when he was executing it. So he had interacted. He is a director of the show. No, I just put the foundation. He built up the entire edifice.
Okay.
So he should be the right person.
You just fix the pillars, and that's the most important, I believe, Hannah.
So for me, when I'm writing, I was not seeing the actors. I was just going along with the character, each of the character, how they interact. As a storyteller, that's what I was not aware who will be the actor playing each role. After the writing had happened, after the entire story, character arc and everything was made, then the actors, the most suitable actors were taken.
And we see so many legends in one frame. Nasiruddin Shah to Dharmendra, to Aditi Rao Hydari looking so beautiful, an epitome of beauty. Sandhya Mridul on one hand, Ashim Gulati on the other. Matlab, like wonderful bunch of talent. So how did you do that? How did you make it happen, Ron?
Well, Rupali and Abhimanyu and Z5, they told me, obviously I knew of Nazaruddin Shah, I knew of Aditi, and we went through an very distinctive, exhaustive casting process. And obviously with the established actors, you go and meet them and say, look, this is the vision of the film or the TV series that we're doing. And they sort of embrace that. And then, with Ashim, 2 or 3 different callbacks, Tahar the same. And, we wanted to make the brothers really distinctive, and they all have different characteristics. One's a poetic, romantic, love-orientated character. Murad is more, kind of single vision, brutal, has his own insecurities. And Danielle has, a man of faith, young, naive, and who's been manipulated. So it was really clear that the character delineation was very strong and that these actors could bring these different characteristics to life. And obviously for Aditi to take on a role like Anarkali, which means so much to so many people, was a huge challenge. And she brought to it a certain modernity that made her, I hope, that all the audiences react in a very, profound way, because it's very, very rich, her performance and her characterization of an artist.
Since how long, Anand, were you working on this subject? Because as a storyteller, it takes a lot of time to process the subject that you're working on, Hannah, to make it beautiful, to put it in words. It's really a tough job, no?
It took almost 1.5 to 2 years to prepare the docket. Okay. So the entire thing back and forth and writing it according to the feedback and rewriting it, taking into all the historical things into consideration, and we had to find the right balance of doing it. So it was a fascinating task, but that is what that is great about this profession of storytelling. This is what makes it so enjoyable.
Yes, absolutely. Ron is smiling. I think he has something to add on this, right?
Yeah, we all come to this industry as writers, as directors, as actors, because we love being in telling stories, and entertaining people. And we all started off watching TV and films as children. And so when you get to that stage in your professional life where you're the keys to a story, it's just a super honor and a privilege to take, people's time, their investment, their money. And I think we do it for our love of filmmaking and storytelling, because we all work, very, very hard for, to make these stories work. And it's a crazy job, but we love it. And, we just feel very privileged to be given, you stand there like 300 soldiers, elephants, camels. It's like your child's imagination coming alive. And instead of little pieces on your little kind of figurines or your model set, this is like a huge canvas. And you have to take your breath and go, wow, this is huge. And how thrilling is it? From the palaces to the queens to the kings to the beautiful actors and brilliant performances. Of course, if it gets industrial, you get tired and you get exhausted. But every day, you can tell from the costume designers to the people building the sets, the editors, the sound designers, to the stunt coordinators. We all love being a part of this crazy world of TV and film and storytelling.
May I ask you, did you see our legend Dharmendra's Hindi movies? You love him as an actor? How much do you love him as an actor?
Well, I didn't know lots about him. I certainly know lots about him now since I've been in India for the last 18 months. And he's a legend to cinema, and he was a lovely man and a lovely presence. We had a conversations 2 or 3 times. And he's lived a very full life, and he means so much to Indian audiences, and there's so much love for him actually. And we had a sense that with the crew, big round of applause when he arrived, big standing ovation when he left. We were lucky to have him for 2 days, and he's very senior in these years now, so we all looked after him. And I think he loved being on set, and he was word perfect. It was like this seasoned professional. He was very studious about how he wanted to look, how he wanted to portray the role. And it was one of the days where everybody seemed to turn up. Like, we had more people around the camera, all the producers, actors, everyone was there just to be around him. And so he's a legend, obviously, and he deserves his status.
I think when Anand came to know that all these actors have been hired and then they are on board to play their respective characters that you have built in, what was your reaction at that time?
It was incredible, actually. It is such a great privilege to have these legends. They coming alive as the characters which we had conceived. These are historical characters. So it was conceived with that gravity, and these are the actors who can do justice to that. So that is such a great, fascinating feeling, and I have to congratulate the Contilo team and the Channel Z and Ron to make this happen. So it is. Thank you very much for doing this. That's all I can say.
Thank you for letting me do it. It was a privilege and an honor to be given the keys to the story. So it was absolutely true.
अब मुझे लगा कि thank you इधर की तरफ आएगा. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that question also.
Ram, one thing I would love to know is, like, when you're coming from outside, you have done so beautiful work internationally. I've read all about you, and you've been receiving so many awards at one time. And now that you are into making into the steps of Indian cinema, which is very much different, especially when it comes to OTT platforms, so dialect would have been one challenge for you guys. So was there any pressure? Ki language barrier would be there, or any other thing in terms of research about Indian history and all that?
There's always pressure wherever you work. I have a huge responsibility when I direct. Lots of people are investing in the show and investing in me, from Z, to Abhimanyu and Rupali at Recountalo, in the ministry at Z5. But they backed my vision, actually, and they backed the way I wanted to approach it. And I think I was what they was looking for. And, there was reservations, not reservation. I imagine there was conversations about the dialect, but I looked at all the scenes in English. We had all the episodes written in English. So I spent 2 or 3 months before I arrived in India breaking every scene down emotionally and thematically. So I knew the story inside out. Then I'd meet the actors, and then obviously there'd be translations, and then I'd have people on set. If the translation wasn't going to plan, they could tell. But I'd worked the story so much. I knew this, I heavily researched in every episode and every scene. And all the actors spoke English, so we would talk and block in English, which was grateful for, I was really appreciative of. And then you get so used to the language that you've heard it so many times that you start concentrating on the faces. And it was always to me, our face tells a million stories. And we had so many beautiful and stunning actors, not just because they were good looking or attractive, because they expressed so much through their eyes and through their inner world that when I was filming, is this honest? Is this a believable translation of the emotional character of my actor? The emotional character. Sorry, is this the emotional truth of that character at that moment in time? And I could hear the language and I could hear the resonance, but if I felt it through the viewfinder, I felt it was honest, then I would say we had a take. And yeah, it had its challenges, but on another level, it made you focus more on the emotion of every moment. So there's always pressure, but I try to sort of recognize the pressure, then ignore it, because if you become kind of handcuffed to pressure, you can't breathe,
So when you wrote the whole story and then prepared for all the concept and it was done on your plate and you were serving it to Ron, did he ask you to make some amendments in that?
See, I think that was done by, the other feedbacks was done by the episodic screenplay writers. So
Okay.
because this goes through, unlike films or unlike books, this is a team, it's a writing rooms team. So this thing was to create the entire, like an architect, how he prepares a plan. I had done the entire planning of it. Then the interior decorators will come, then the engineers will come, and the entire edifice is built by the director. So that is how the OTT and other things, writings work. So I was a broad storyteller. I was the one who conceived it and put the characters in place. And after that, I moved away to. And there are other great writers, fantastic writers who wrote the scene to scene things, and dialogue writers came for the language nuances. So it's a big team working on these kind of
Yeah,
things.
and the
It's never
scripts.
as one man's job.
Oh,
No, I mean, the script's always evolving from the director, from the producers, from the channel, and even to the very last minute where you're filming a scene, there'll be a dialogue tweak. Then we'd make sure that dialogue worked. And there was obviously some Sanskrit in there that had to be correct. So we had loads of people making sure that all the language was right. And a script is like an evolving piece of a jigsaw. It never stops. It just keeps moving. New pieces come in, new details come in. Actors have an interpretation. Sometimes they're really, most times they're really valid. And then how does that work? And how does that work across the series? And all our screenwriters were really writing to the very last minute, every day, really. Not that it's just minor details would change, and different ways of expression, different moments.
So what both of you are expecting out of the Indian audience after watching Taj, because they are imagining something else. They are just comparing it with, some of them are comparing it with Mughal Azam, है ना? But I know this is something different from the Mughal dynasty that you guys wanted to show. So what all you are expecting out this time from the audience?
We want the audience to experience a new kind of storytelling. That's because see, other one is a film, a classic, legendary film, and told in 3.5 hours. This is something like, it's like the scale of this is totally different in the sense that this goes through the number of hours which we have to tell the story is more. So it is both easy for us and difficult for us. Easy in the sense that we have got such a big canvas to draw it. The limitation of TV versus the OTT versus the films, that of course is our disadvantage. one of the biggest challenges to keep people engaged throughout this 10 hours of storytelling. Other one, you have a captive audience, right? You take a ticket, you go to the theater, you are sitting there, and for the 3 hours, you have experienced it and you have come out. Here, you are
Yes.
fighting the distraction of phone, you are fighting the distraction of family, you are fighting the distraction of your work, and you have to make people to binge watch.
Yes.
So that makes it very, very, very challenging.
Absolutely.
I think Ron will agree to that, and as this might be one of his most challenging projects compared to the films and other things which he did, perhaps on this aspect of keeping people engaged for so many
I
hours.
think Ron is
Absolutely.
already confident about that people are going to like it, and he's already ready with the second season, I believe.
Well, you know, I just reasserting that point. Really, it's a modern show for a modern audience. Mughalism is a huge, huge film that means a lot, you know, and it resonates to this day. But that was shot in 1960. You know, we're in 2023. Audiences expect a different sort of experience now when they watch cinema or watch TV. And for us, you know, I'm very open-minded. I think lots of people will love it and embrace its, you know, boldness and its bravery and the way it's told this story. And that's all we can hope for, just to keep an open mind and hopefully, you know, get absorbed by an engaging, thrilling story of family dynasties and love and empire told in an addictive way where a narrative is moving always forward and there's political intrigue, there's emotional intrigue. And, you know, people are already saying, you know, some people watching this saying they're finding it very addictive, which, you know, for a filmmaker and a storyteller and for a TV series is very important. You need people to, you know, commit really when so much of our life is being time dominated by other factors. So to get people to watch your programs is very lucky. And if they're going to watch 10 hours, it better be good.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you, Ron. It was wonderful conversation with you guys. All the best.
Thank you. It's been
Namita.
lovely.
Thank
It's been
you
a
so
lovely
much.
conversation as well. Thanks for taking us on. Thank you.